like you're in that friend group, but let's say there's someone else who's already trying to influence other people, then you need to know also like when to not be the leader, like when to.
Yes, sometimes, and it depends on what that other leader is doing. And sometimes, as I said, it's better to cut your losses. And I've been in friend groups, even as adults. I've been in friend groups where I can see that there's an emerging philosophy, an emerging sort of pattern of behavior that I'm not comfortable with. It doesn't represent me, it doesn't represent me and my family's values, and so I disassociate myself. Would it be better if I tried to change them? Sure, but at some point you have to be a realist and you say, they're going to do what they're going to do. I just don't want to be a part of that. I don't share the same values. I don't share the same core beliefs. And I'd rather turn my attention to people who are more like me and influence that group to be even better, as opposed to this group who's, I'm not going to say a lost cause, but just is so different than what I'm interested in. And you'll see that in high school. I mean, even more so than me. People like Andy and I, you're kind of set in your friend groups, and after 30 and 40 years of having friends, you kind of have already put yourself in groups that are sort of similar to you, right? Whereas you guys, it's a different animal. Particularly when you go away to school or in your senior year of high school, whatever it is, you're just bombarded with all these different groups, right? And they're all different. Some of them are like you and some of them are completely different. And so it's tricky. At my age, I don't really have the there's not like a bad crowd who I'm trying to stay away from, right? I've already stayed away from them.
So what if there's like not that many people in particular like you, I guess, but like I found one and then someone is influencing some of the people in the group to do not really bad, but just things of like worse values, I guess, that cause like a bunch of their grades to drop. And then I left, like what do I do now after that? Like how do I find another group that's sort of like-minded, I guess, in interests and stuff like that?
I mean, it would be great if you could, the trick is to find, listen, the way that I think about it, I have lots and lots of acquaintances. I know a tremendous number of people through business. I've lived in South Florida for 25 years. I've been involved in lots and lots of organizations and businesses and groups and different things. So I have a tremendous number of acquaintances. But when I think about how many friends do I have, that number shrinks big time. Because you only have time. Remember, with friends are an investment. You have to invest in friends. They don't just, they happen and you can ignore them and do things and not spend time and they're still your friends. I mean, you really have to invest in friendships. And there's only so many that you can invest in. And so I'd encourage you to find the right ones to invest in and make sure you don't need 20 friends. That's a fallacy of the Instagram and TikTok generation. How many followers do you have, right? How many followers? You know how many followers I have? None. Right? Zero. I think you have to go on Instagram before you can have a follower. So I have no followers, right? And I have a dozen friends, but that's enough. I don't need 10,000 followers. I don't need 100 friends. I need real friends.
Any last question? Anyone?
Oh God, it's gonna be tough.
Well, in your friend group, you can make decisions as to where you want to, who you want to hang out with. But in business, you've got a lot of people, some of whom may be excellent at their jobs, but don't meet all the characteristics of character that you described.
Correct.
And I'm wondering how you manage that, because you have a lot of people under you, so you do have some choices, but constrained in a way that the friend group is not.
It's an interesting question and an advice. One of the best, before I moved to Florida, I worked at a firm in Boston. Has anyone ever heard, are you too young, does anyone know who Mitt Romney is? Mitt Romney, he's the senior senator from Utah right now. He ran for president in 2012. So I used to work for Mitt Romney in Boston. And one of the lessons, he was a phenomenal leader. And one of the things that he told us is in terms of mentoring, right? It's very, very easy to mentor people who you like, right? It's much more difficult to mentor people who you don't like as much. But each of them deserves, if you're the leader, each of them deserves the same mentoring, the same investment, the same time commitment, even if you may like this one and find yourself more closely aligned in terms of your shared values and culture and beliefs than with this one. So it is a fine line when you're at work saying, okay, you don't want to play favorites based on who aligns with me, right? You have to treat maybe they're right and I'm wrong, right? Maybe they know something that I don't know. So it is tricky to separate that at work of people who you aren't as fond of and don't share those same values and still treating them in the same way and offering them the same opportunities and the same mentoring as the people who you like.
Andy, I'm just going to comment, and I'm just going to close this off, but it's interesting, when I hire staff for our school, or even in the shore, in the community, I often have three things in mind. Do we have the same core values, ability, and willingness? Core values, I find, are very important in a workspace, not as somebody who I have to do business with per se, but somebody who's actually part of my team. Because if they have the same core values and they have the willingness to learn and the ability to progress and learn in my environment, then we have a lot to work with. But I have found over the years that I've hired people who profess to have the same core values, whether it's our philosophy or our discipline policy or whatever it is, not necessarily religion per se, because it's a school. I find that somewhere along the line, something's going to clash, and then do I have enough to work with them? Because I've even had parents who I've had to say, if you don't have the same core value as our school, maybe we're not the right fit for you, even in how we greet each other, or say hello, how we talk on a carpool line, things like that really, boil down to a core value system. So I could choose, in hiring, you could choose who you hire. Sometimes in business, a deal's a deal. You might not be able to choose necessarily if you're doing a deal with them or not. But just my 2 cents, and then I'm talking.
One thought I'll leave you with is one of the things when I think about what makes people successful, people who work in my organization or people who I see in other jobs, is two things. Number one is the ability to communicate, and to communicate your ideas in written form, meaning the world has moved to bullet points, to texts, okay, not even okay, K, NM, all of these different things that Charlie says to me. But the ability to actually write is underrated, and I would highly encourage you to pursue that. And number two, the ability to speak in public and to proffer your ideas. If you have aspirations to be a leader, that is an absolutely critical skill set, is being a good public speaker and a confident public speaker. And I can tell you from experience, that is something that you can learn. I was not like this 10 years ago. I was afraid to even, forget about, last night I spoke to 400 people on a stage, you're mic'd up, there's lights, everything, right? Forget about that. I'm talking about something like today. 10 years ago, this would make me very nervous, right, to come up. It is something that you can learn, that you can overcome, and you can become really, really good at it with some work. And I would highly encourage you to do that. That is a skill that will serve you well for the rest of your life. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
That was amazing, right? Doug, thank you very much for your insight and for your beautiful speech, and thank you also for taking us on a journey with you on a little bit of your life on your personal level and on a business level. It was amazing and a true honor to have you in our community and part of our program, so thank you. We're gonna take a quick picture with Doug over here.